What do you get when you mix genius-level strategy, unmatched ambition, and a little guy with a big complex? You get Napoleon Bonaparte, a man who rose from obscurity on a small island to become Emperor of France and nearly the master of Europe. Love him or hate him, he changed the world forever. This is the entire history of Napoleon Bonaparte in just 10 minutes. Let's dive in. Napoleon was born in 1769 on the island of Corsica, just months after it was conquered by France. So technically he was French, but he never quite felt like he belonged. As a child, he was mocked for his accent and outsider status. But he was brilliant, especially in math and history, and earned a scholarship to a prestigious military school in France. While other kids dreamed of games and glory, Napoleon studied the great generals of history. Alexander the Great, Julius Caesar. He wasn't just reading history, he was planning to make it. By his early 20s, France was in chaos. The French Revolution had toppled the monarchy, and Europe was at war with itself. This was Napoleon's moment. In 1793, he took command during the siege of Toulon and recaptured the city from royalist forces. At just 24, he became a general. Let that sink in. Napoleon's big break came with the Italian campaign in 1796. He was sent to lead an under-equipped, exhausted army in northern Italy. What happened next was nothing short of genius. Napoleon used speed, deception, and psychological warfare to defeat larger Austrian armies again and again. He wasn't just winning battles, he was becoming a legend. He wrote passionate letters to Josephine, his wife back in Paris, while simultaneously redrawing the map of Europe. Then came his strangest campaign, Egypt. He wanted to cut off Britain's trade route to India and bring enlightenment to the East. In 1798, he landed in Egypt and defeated the Mamluks at the Battle of the Pyramids. But things quickly fell apart. The British Navy, led by Admiral Nelson, destroyed his fleet at the Battle of the Nile. Napoleon was stranded. So, he just left his army there and snuck back to France. In 1799, France was a mess, broke, divided, and leaderless. Guess who walked in? Napoleon staged a coup d'etat and named himself first consul, basically dictator, in the name of saving the Republic. Nice move. In 1804, Napoleon crowned himself Emperor of the French. Literally, he took the crown from the Pope's hands and placed it on his own head. The message was clear: I answer to no one. From there, he launched a series of military campaigns known as the Napoleonic Wars, and it was like watching a chess grandmaster play 3D chess, blindfolded. He crushed Austria at Austerlitz, defeated Prussia at Jena, and took over most of Europe. But not everything was war. Napoleon was also a reformer. He created the Napoleonic Code, which influenced legal systems around the world. He modernized education, built roads, and supported science. He was a dictator, yes, but he brought order to chaos. But there was one place he could never conquer: Britain. In 1805, he tried to invade by sea but lost disastrously at the Battle of Trafalgar. So he turned to economic warfare, the continental system, a trade blockade meant to starve Britain's economy. It backfired. All across Europe, resistance was growing. Napoleon responded with more invasions, more wars, and more enemies. Then came Russia. In 1812, Napoleon led over 600,000 troops into the Russian Empire, the largest army Europe had ever seen. But Russia had a secret weapon: winter. The Russians kept retreating, burning their own cities and food supplies. Napoleon entered Moscow expecting surrender. Instead, he found the city empty and on fire. With no supplies and freezing temperatures setting in, his army began the long march home. Only about 100,000 survived. It was the beginning of the end. After Russia, Napoleon's enemies pounced. A coalition of Europe's powers united against him. In 1814, he was defeated and forced to abdicate. He was exiled to the island of Elba. But you can't keep a man like Napoleon down for long. Less than a year later, he escaped Elba and returned to France. Troops sent to arrest him joined him instead, cheering, "Vive l'Empereur!" It was Napoleon's final act, the Hundred Days. He returned to power, raised a new army, and met the British and Prussians at Waterloo. It was a crushing defeat. This time there was no escape. He was exiled again, this time to St. Helena, a remote island in the South Atlantic. He never left. In 1821, Napoleon died at age 51. Some say it was cancer, others whisper poison. Either way, the man who had reshaped Europe was gone. So who was Napoleon? A tyrant, a visionary, a warlord, a genius? The truth is, all of the above. He ended a monarchy and built an empire. He destroyed nations and built them up again. He lost everything, twice, and still remains one of the most studied figures in history. Whether you admire him or despise him, one thing is certain. Napoleon Bonaparte proved how far one human being could go, with nothing but ambition, brilliance, and sheer will.